So we ended up tapping into our target between 66.2 cents to 66.96 cents. And this is something I talked about in my previous video where I mentioned how ADA was still potentially within the X wave, where I was looking at for a WXY structure, and essentially this target was our Y wave target, which is a 1 to 1.226 retracement of our W wave. And yeah, following this move to the downside where we tapped into this region, we then saw a pump to the upside where we then got rejected at the 50 EMA, which then led to this recent move to the downside during the time of recording. And I also talked about how there was a possibility of ADA to tap into this region between 72.85 cents to 74.2 cents. And for this to have happened, we needed ADA to have completed the X wave at around 67 cents, like so, and see a move to the upside where we then broke this local high at around 70.72 cents. But the first signal that we were slightly bearish was the fact that we never retested the local high, number one. And number two, this move was a 88.2% retracement of this wave structure. So if I draw in the fib tool, just so you can see what I'm talking about, we got rejected at this level at around 70.32 cents. And in order for us to have been bullish, we needed ADA to, have continued to see a move to the upside where we broke this high at around 70.72 cents. But we got rejected at the 200 EMA, which was the third signal, which then led to this move to the downside. And we then retested the 200 EMA once again, but then we ultimately got rejected, which then led to this move to the downside. And you can see that on the move to the downside, we then retested the 50 EMA, but then again, we ended up getting rejected, which was a further confirmation that we were slightly bearish. And yeah, we ended up retesting the 50 EMA once again. And it's possible that we are still slightly bullish despite actually getting rejected. And reason being is because if the X wave is now complete, we could potentially be within Y wave now, made up of a bigger WXY structure. And so in order for us to make up that W wave will also need to be made up of another WXY structure. And so if I draw that in, essentially what could be playing out is something to this effect here. And it's possible that this recent move to the upside could have completed the W wave, and we could potentially be within X wave, and then we could still see that Y wave to then complete the WXY structure within this W wave here. And so within this recent move to the downside, I can see that it's made up of a corrective move as opposed to an impulsive move, where this WXY structure made up the W wave, followed by a X wave and then a final Y wave. And so in order to make sure that this move is now complete, that Y wave would typically be a 1 to 1.236 retracement of the W wave. So if I use the fib tool and bring that over here, you can see that we more or less tapped into this region. We just about extended beyond the 1.236 retracement level. And so what that tells me is that this structure is now complete. And yeah, we can see that bounce to the upside. And should that be the case, then the next target really will be the 1 to 1.236 retracement of this W wave here. And so if I draw in the fib tool, just make sure that that's in the right spot. And so yeah, the next target will be anywhere between 71.57 cents to 72.9 cents. So this will need to be adjusted now. So if I bring that over here, and let me just make sure that that's in the right position. Like so. So that's the next target for ADA. And if we do breach past this local high at around 70.72 cents, then that will then confirm that we are on this short-term bullish run towards this region, and that will then result in a breakout structure and a change of character. And so from the recent local drop at around 66.2 cents, which is this here, up to this lower target, we'll be looking at an 8% move to a 10% move. And so that'll be, decent profits that people will be making. And I do anticipate people to be short in the market and taking profits, which will then lead to a further move to the downside, where this low at around 65 cents could potentially be broken also. Now you can see that we are overbought on the stochastic RSI on the hourly chart, and if I'm moving over to the 4-hour chart, you can see that we are oversold. And so the bulls could regain control of the market, and it will be interesting to see if ADA can actually tap into this region here And you can see that the 200 DMA actually sits within this zone. And so it's possible that we actually retest the 200 DMA, which currently sits at around 72.38 cents. We get rejected, and then we see a further move to the downside, where we then see this weak low at around 65 cents get broken, which would then result in a break of structure and a change of character, which would then further confirm that we're bearish. And that could then lead to a deeper move within this region here. Now, of course, we have tapped into this region, and so it's possible that we get to see that bounce to the upside. And so the best case scenario will be for ADA to then retest this level at around 83 cents and also this local top at around 84 cents. Now, as for the daily chart, we are still oversold also on the stochastic RSI, and you can see that we have a strong high at around 51.1 cents. And so even if ADA was to make a deeper move within this region, we can still remain bullish. And all this will tell me really is that, this is just a corrective move to the downside before we see a bigger push to the upside, where we can then potentially break this week high at around $1.17. And so, yeah, that's just my quick update on Cardano ADA. Hopefully you found this useful. And if you did, then feel free to hit that like button. And if you're new, feel free to subscribe. Take it easy, people. Peace.